People who forgive debts aren't being generous. They're running a calculation so cold it would make most people uncomfortable. And that single insight is going to change the way you see money forever. There's a pattern nobody talks about. History's most powerful people, from ancient kings to modern billionaires, have consistently chosen to erase debts rather than collect them. Not out of weakness, not out of kindness, for a reason so strategic it borders on ruthless. And by the end of this video, you'll discover exactly what that reason is. And I promise you, it's not what you think. This video didn't appear in your feed by accident. Stay to the final minute. You were meant to hear this. Not generosity, real power. In the next few minutes, you'll uncover the hidden psychology behind people who forgive debts. The brutal cost-benefit framework they run, the power signal it broadcasts to the world, and why letting go of money might be the ultimate wealth move of all. By the end, you'll never look at debt forgiveness, or money itself, the same way again. The debt reflex. Most people have been trained to treat debt like a scoreboard. Someone owes you money, you keep score, you send reminders, you bring it up at dinner. You lose sleep over $500 a friend borrowed a year ago. This is the default program. Chase what's owed, collect what's yours, and it feels like justice. But what if that very instinct is keeping you trapped? The moment you decide to pursue a debt, you've already made a trade. You've exchanged your time, your attention, your mental energy, and often your most important relationships. For money you may never see anyway. And the people who truly understand wealth have already run the numbers on that trade. The energy you spend chasing money is energy stolen from creating it. Think about the last time someone owed you money. How much mental real estate did it consume? How many conversations did you replay in your head? How many days did a low-grade resentment follow you like a shadow? The people who forgive debts aren't losing that war. They've already calculated the full cost of fighting it. But what they're actually counting, that's where it gets surprising. The real math. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, because we're not talking about dollars anymore. When someone who genuinely understands money faces a debt situation, they don't ask, how do I get my money back? They ask something completely different. What is the total cost of pursuing this? And they count everything. 1. Hours lost to confrontation and follow-up. 2. Cortisol spikes from ongoing conflict. 3. Mental bandwidth diverted from wealth creation. 4. Relationship damage that may never recover. This isn't charity math. This is abundance math, and it rewrites the entire equation. When you add it all up, chasing $5,000 often costs $50. The person who forgives the debt isn't giving up. They've simply priced in costs most people never think to count. If this framework is shifting something in you, hit like and subscribe to keep rewiring your money mindset with me. Because we've only scratched the surface of what's really happening here. The next cost is one nobody talks about, and it might be the most expensive one of all. Time is currency. Pay close attention here, because this reframes every hour of your life. Your time has a price, not just an hourly wage, a real, measurable opportunity cost. Every hour you spend chasing a debt is an hour you're not building something, learning something, or recovering your energy. And for people who have crossed a certain threshold of financial awareness, this cost is viscerally, deeply real. Time is the real currency. Consider this: if your time is worth $100 an hour, and for most people it genuinely could be if directed correctly, then every hour spent drafting resentful messages, making uncomfortable calls, or replaying confrontations in your mind costs you $100 you'll never get back. Multiply that by weeks, sometimes months. The most precious resource we all have is time. The people who forgive debts fastest are often the ones who most fiercely understand this truth. They're not being generous with money. They're being ferociously protective of something worth far more. But time is only one dimension of the cost. The next one is where most people make their most expensive mistake, and they never realize it until the damage is already irreversible. Relationship capital. Now forget the numbers for a moment, because this is where the calculation becomes truly ruthless. Every relationship in your life has a functional economic value. Connections open doors. Trust generates opportunities. Goodwill creates partnerships worth orders of magnitude more than any individual debt. The network you destroy chasing money is worth more than the money. When you pursue a debt aggressively, you're making a trade, and most people make it without realizing they're making it. You're exchanging the future value of that relationship for the present value of what's owed. But the person who forgives has already run that calculation. They understand something critical. A person who remembers being let off the hook becomes one of the most loyal, motivated allies you will ever have. Forgive the debt, own the loyalty. This isn't weakness. This is leverage at its most sophisticated. Human beings remember grace more powerfully than they remember generosity, and far more than they remember being hunted down. But there's a deeper layer to this psychology, one that most directly exposes who is actually in control, you or the money. The power signal. This next one is the piece most people never see, and once you do, you can't unsee it. When someone forgives a debt, they're not just making a financial decision. They're broadcasting a signal. And that signal is one of the most powerful things a person can communicate about themselves. Abundance. The signal says, money does not control me. It says, I operate from surplus, not scarcity. It says, I am larger than any amount that could be owed to me. The person who can let money go proves they are bigger than money. And everyone who witnesses this decision updates their perception of you permanently, not because you were kind, because you were powerful. Contrast this with the person who chases every cent. What signal do they send? Scarcity, neediness. A relationship with money that is controlled by money, not the other way around. Wealth is the ability to fully experience life. This is why debt forgiveness has functioned as a power move across every culture and every era in history. It is theater, deliberate, expensive, reputation-building theater. But the deeper you go into this psychology, the more personal it gets. Because the next layer isn't about what it signals to others. It's about what it reveals about you. The identity test. Here's where this gets genuinely uncomfortable, and I mean that as a compliment. Your reaction to the idea of forgiving a debt is a mirror. It reflects your identity around money with startling precision. Most people don't like what they see. If the thought of forgiving a debt makes you feel sick, that reaction has a name. Psychologists call it loss aversion. The documented tendency to experience losses as roughly twice as painful as equivalent gains feel good. Losing $500 hurts more than gaining $500 feels good. It's wired into your neurology. But what loss aversion actually reveals is this. Your brain assigns more identity to what you already have than to what you're capable of creating. You feel the loss of money more intensely than the gain of time, freedom, or peace of mind. Your reaction to losing money tells you everything about your relationship with it. The people who forgive debts without resentment have reprogrammed that equation. They've attached their identity to their ability to generate, not to retain. Generate, not retain. That reprogramming is a deliberate shift. And the next segment reveals exactly what it proves about who truly holds the power in your financial life. The control proof. Here's a question that will reveal more about your financial psychology than any bank statement ever could. Who controls your emotional state? You or money? Think about the last time someone owed you something significant. How long did it live in your mind? How many moods, decisions, and moments were colored by that unresolved tension? That tension is money controlling you, not because you're weak, because nobody ever taught you how to dissolve it. Now consider the person who forgives the debt. The moment they make that decision, the tension dissolves. Their mental space returns. Their emotional state is no longer held hostage by someone else's financial behavior. When you forgive a debt, you don't lose money, you buy back your freedom. The truly wealthy don't just manage money. They manage the psychological grip that money has on them. They refuse to allow any amount of money to hold their emotional state hostage for a day longer than necessary. He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still. This principle of self-governance isn't new, it's ancient. And the proof stretches back thousands of years, which is exactly what I'm going to show you next. History confirms. What I'm about to show you proves this isn't modern psychology. This principle has been operating at the highest levels of human civilization for millennia. In ancient Rome, powerful figures routinely forgave the debts of allies, not as charity, but as deliberate mechanisms for creating devotion. Julius Caesar, before his political ascent, famously settled the debts of key associates. Not because he was generous, because he understood the fundamental difference between a man who owes you money and a man whose debt you've chosen to erase. Contract versus devotion. In the Jubilee traditions of the ancient world, from Mesopotamia to biblical Israel, debts were periodically canceled on a societal scale, not to be kind, to prevent the social destabilization that chronic debt servitude creates. The powerful knew that releasing people from impossible obligations was a mechanism of influence, not generosity. The most powerful empires in history were built on strategic forgiveness, not rigid collection. Modern research on wealth behavior confirms the identical pattern. The ultra-wealthy write off bad debts quickly, not because they can afford to, but because they've already calculated the full cost of not doing so. The pattern is ancient. The psychology is timeless, and the most unsettling application of it, that's exactly what the next segment reveals. The real power move. This is the part of this conversation that changes everything, so I need you to be fully present. The people who forgive debts most readily are not being generous. They are not being weak. They have done a calculation so cold, so precise, that it would make most people deeply uncomfortable, and their conclusion is always the same. The total cost of pursuing any debt. Time, cortisol, mental bandwidth, relationship damage, reputation, and lost opportunity almost always exceeds the value of what's actually owed. Forgiving $5,000 might save you $50,000 worth of life. This is not kindness. This is not weakness. This is the most advanced form of financial intelligence, the ability to quantify invisible costs. The people trapped in scarcity count only the money. The people building wealth count everything. The seen and the unseen. The cost of a thing is the amount of life which is required to be exchanged for it. Genius strategy or moral weakness? Comment genius or weakness right now. Your answer reveals your money programming more than you realize, and if this truth deserves to travel further than this comment section. Share this video with as many people as you possibly can. This understanding is too rare and too important to keep to yourself. The forgiveness code. Now, here's the answer to the question we opened with. Why do history's most powerful people consistently choose to erase debts rather than collect them? The answer isn't strategy. It isn't kindness. It isn't even about the money. It's identity. Identity. The person you become by letting go is worth more than anything you could ever chase. When you forgive a debt, you make a declaration to yourself and to everyone watching that your identity is not dependent on recovering what you're owed. You are declaring that you are a generator, not a collector. Someone whose power comes from creating, not from clinging to what already exists. Generator, not collector. This is the forgiveness code, the operating system of people who build lasting wealth. Not just financial wealth, but the wealth of time, energy, relationships, and peace of mind. The question is not whether you can afford to forgive. The question is whether you can afford not to. Because every debt you chase obsessively is a piece of your future self you're trading away for a fraction of its true value. Your mind is either programmed for wealth or poverty. Now you know how to reprogram it. Comment forgiveness code if something shifted in you today. And welcome to a very small group of people who finally think at this level. The hidden psychology behind people who forgive debts was never about generosity. It was never about being a pushover. It was always about this. Letting go of money is the ultimate proof that money doesn't own you. The most powerful people in history, kings, philosophers, billionaires, understood that real wealth is not measured in what you collect, but in what you no longer need to chase. Your freedom is worth more than any debt anyone could ever owe you. You now have the forgiveness code. The only question is whether you'll use it, or whether you'll keep letting invisible costs consume you while you count only the visible ones. Holding on is believing that there's only a past. Letting go is knowing there's a future. If you made it this far, comment forgiveness code to prove you're among the few who think at this level. Your mind is either programmed for wealth or poverty. Now you know how to reprogram it. If this exposed something in you, subscribe. There's more to uncover.